All right, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, listening and watching to this ACL Hub interview. My name's Mick, founder of the ACL Hub, and I've got the absolute privilege and joy to sit down and talk shop and yeah, find a little bit more about what it's like to actually sit in the midst of ACL rehab with Australian basketball player Georgia Amoore. Georgia, thanks for having a chat and spending some time with me tonight. Your time, morning, my
Thank
time.
you. Yeah, nighttime here.
Yeah, no, it's good. For those that don't know Georgia, she's been drafted into the WNBA, playing for Washington in the WNBA. Unfortunately, ran into an ACL injury not long after being drafted and had to sit a big chunk of her rookie year on the sidelines. So, yeah, Georgia, I was hopefully trying to, get a little bit of an insight as to how the injury happened. If you're happy to go walk us through, how the injury happened and yeah, what was sort of going through your mind at the time when when the injury happened, and just in the context of the excitement of probably being drafted only a few months before to all of a sudden now feeling the lows of the injury. Yeah, if you're happy to sort of go back and talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it happens so quick, the injury itself, but also just kind of like the realization of, oh, I've done something. It was a couple of days into training camp, and for those who are unfamiliar, I've been in the States for a couple of years, and I was in college. So our season ended in college in about like March. And then obviously the WNBA draft is like April the 14th. So there's a very short window between the time of, finishing your season and getting ready for the draft. After the draft, it's a very quick turnaround to kind of go to camp. And this has always kind of been like a notorious thing about like the W season is just the transition from college to the W is very tight and it's very short.
Yeah.
Um, and in those weeks of like rest, you're kind of balancing, trying to get fit for camp, trying to come like rest. I've been playing since like November, 2 games a week, practice almost every day. Like it's just like a fine line to try and balance. Um, so I get to Washington 3 days into camp, I think it was. I can't really remember. It was at the end of practice, and obviously just like fatigue levels are high. I was actually thinking about this the other day, just because it kind of like a mental flash came up in one of my workouts I had like
Mm.
last week of like a
Yeah.
similar fatigue feeling that I was feeling during camp. Obviously, it was like the end, it was like a minute left of like a scrimmage we were doing. It's a move I've done so many times before.
Yeah.
Kind of just when my knee was like, nah, I've absolutely had enough. Kind of hyperextended it in a way, like it was
Yeah.
non-contact. It was just a step. I was, I was dodging something. Um, and I just like immediately recoiled, grabbed my knee, and just fell. And like I'm not a screamer or a crier. Like usually when I get hit, I'm back
Yeah.
up. Like I'm not trying to spend too much time on the. So like kind of when I did it, I was like, all right, like collected my tears, kind of slowed my breath down. And I was like, look, I hope it's not ACL, but I've definitely done something. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
one of my like vets and the trainer, by vet I mean like my veteran player, Slim, she came over, kind of helped me walk over to like the training room. But I was definitely in denial. So I think I was like walking by myself. I definitely walked on my own for the rest of that day
Mm.
to my MRI. But yeah, the classic tests, a couple of
Yeah.
doctors, trainers were doing the tests and not sure if it was like because I am so strong quad wise.
Yeah.
The tests weren't really like, oh yeah, she's done it. Like it was still kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, like we'll get an MRI, like, you
Yeah.
know. I don't know if it was like adrenaline too or whatever it was, but yeah, I spent like a couple of hours just uncertain on the situation till I got my MRI, really.
Yeah, man. And yeah, hadn't experienced one before. Yeah, haven't had an ACL injury before, any near
I never had a
misses.
single injury. Like I think I
Yeah.
missed one game of college in 5 years from a concussion.
Yeah,
So
wow. That was good. Yeah.
shock to the
Good,
system
good.
though.
That's a good run. And no family members as well. Like, there are some links to ACL, brothers, sisters, mum and dad, any
I believe my
immediate
dad
family?
had a he had a knee recur from footy. Can't remember
Yeah,
what age.
okay.
Definitely talked
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, wow. And it's yeah, it is hard in those first few, unless you can kind of, from a physio perspective, unless you can assess your knee or the trainers can assess your knee within kind of minutes before the kind of guarding and the spasms kick in, it can be quite hard, especially if you're quite strong and you've got some good muscle tone there. It can be hard to get an idea. You're kind of really basically going on person symptoms. And people do, I've never experienced an ACL injury before. Like, was that did you get that intense pain around your knee for like, 5 or 10 minutes, or was it a different experience? A lot of people will talk about that.
Yeah, so I've heard, and I have heard physically other people's knees pop when they tear theirs,
Yeah,
and I've
yeah.
heard like people wrote like saying that theirs did it, but I don't recall hearing a pop. Maybe it's because I screamed too loud when I did it, but all I remember really was like it was kind of like a dull ache. Like I wouldn't say it was like an intense pain, but it was definitely like a baseline ache.
Yeah.
And it kind of went away with time, but I don't like yeah, I don't remember being in like immense pain. Like definitely the shock to my system immediately because it snapped back and like I fell to the ground. Like once I collected myself and I think I went into like the denial phase,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's fine. It's probably just like some bruising.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you tried to play on, I bet,
I
or no?
literally like back to my apartment. I didn't try to play. I went back to my apartment. I was like FaceTiming my people, just like alarming them that I had gotten an MRI. But I was like jumping on FaceTime. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I can jump.
Oh, classic denial. You move straight through those processes of grief already, straight into denial.
Yeah.
And what was the outcome of that MRI? Like obviously an ACL injury but was there any other injuries sustained at the time?
No, I think it was just a tear right down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And so
Just
after
ACL.
that, what was it's just an ACL. It's a funny bit of tissue, tiny bit of, tissue in the body, but carries such a heavy weight when you injure yourself. What was the kind of knowing what you may have experienced, some teammates go down with an ACL injury, probably obviously been around sport long enough, like what was those immediate kind of worries or concerns, or did you have any, once you've found the diagnosis and heard the diagnosis of ACL, where you have any serious concerns about what next, and what was that sort of like for you?
Yeah, it was on when I was on the ground. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like camp isn't even over. We're supposed to have like a practice match this weekend, and the season starts next weekend. I was like, I can't do a year. I can't do a year off. Like I've never
Yeah.
really taken a break, which is probably a silver lining. I know we're probably going to talk about those later, but I've never hit the slow down, button or took my foot off the gas. So those
Yeah.
thoughts definitely went through my mind. And then I think, having the MRI and then coming back, I was kind of not distracted, but I was like informing, a lot of people about like what could have happened before I officially got the results later that night. But like I was so thankful that I didn't really have to spend too much time in worry because as soon as I got the MRI results, my trainer, head coach, and GM knocked on my door and I opened it and I was like, oh shit, this cannot be
Oh man.
exclusive at my door. But they were like ever so kind to come and kind of deliver the news and obviously like tears were shed, but
Yeah.
kind of just like um I don't know, reminded and just being brought back down to like a level of comfort that like it's all good. Like I'm gonna be taken care of recovery wise. I'm still a mystic. And I think those words at that point in time are like really essential to hear because it
Yeah.
takes out that worry of like this is my career. Like I can't
Yeah.
play what I'm supposed to do. And I think especially being a rookie, like you're supposed to prove things and like the
Yeah.
scariest thing is to kind of get that taken away from you. And then yeah, so I only had a couple of hours of real worry
Yep.
before, like they kind of eased my mind a bit. So, well, a lot
Yeah.
actually. Um,
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, what a sign of a great club and culture there to sort of get around you so early. Like that would be that's it's very unique to a sporting code, but not all sporting clubs would probably have that, that leadership and that support. Some players would probably often be left in limbo, and there'd be some teams and clubs that would, yeah, a lot of the players are probably very individualistic within a team, but to have that camaraderie early and support early is massive. So that's cool, and especially like because with the rookie contract as well, like, were you on a year by year basis, or had you already, signed a 2 or 3 year deal, or what was the kind of thing there?
I I had already signed, like us rookies had already signed. I
Mm.
wish I could explain to you
Mm.
the contract situation, but sometimes in the W, like, people get waived or traded or dropped or cut
Oh,
or whatever. I think it can really happen, whenever. Like, there's not
yeah,
really many guaranteed contracts unless you're like, so
yeah,
like
top
that
end.
situation is
Mm.
always a finicky one as well. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's especially the NBA. I'd imagine it's a, like, yeah, even like you hear about NBA players. I remember a few years ago, like I think Joe Ingles, when he was playing for Utah, he might have tore his ACL, and then tore his ACL, and then all of a sudden he's drafted. Sorry, not drafted. He was traded off to another team temporarily, and then he was kind of almost like, yeah, he was basically used as trading bait for a number of teams, and shipped around, and all of a sudden finally landed in Minnesota. It was like it's a ruthless sport, at the men's level, and I would imagine it also happened from time to time in the female level. So yeah, it'd be hard, and I think that's to have that assurance early from the club to say, look, yeah, you're a mystic, we're around you, we'll support you. I think that would have been, yeah, lovely to hear, and comforting. Did you have many consultations with knee specialists? Was it, or was it, you kind of, did you have to, you get a second opinion, third opinion, or was it kind of like, here's the doc, here's the surgeon,
yeah.
they're going to help you, they're going to fix your knee, and yeah, what was that process like? Meeting, medical side of things.
Yeah, so it's so funny. Like, I'm trying to think about it now, but it's so long ago. I'm not sure if I blacked it out. I remember like 2 weeks was probably like the timeline to make the swelling go down, do a lot of prehab. And in that time, like my agent, I love her. She was giving me like some, suggestions on different surgeons. Obviously, like probably had their fair share of sending people to get their surgery.
Mm,
Kelsey Plum had called me and suggested a surgeon, and she's another W player, it was an incredible gesture. And then one of our team doctors on the NBA side, he's really good mates with Dr. Riley Williams, and he's at HSS in New York. And
yeah,
Dr. Williams has done countless knees. Met with him. I was like, yeah, like I ended up going with him. He has just like this calming confidence about him that's like, not when I do plenty of these a day. I do this in my sleep. Like, let's
yeah.
get cracked. And he's done some, you walk into his office and he's done like some pretty notable athletes. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. He was like suggesting I probably say it wrong, but like the LET, like
Yeah,
what do you guys call it?
yeah,
Suggested that. And he had also told me another NBA player that had gotten the same surgery. And I said, you've said enough. I'll get that too.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
And yeah, got booked in for that.
Yeah, it's quite a humbling experience. I remember going years ago, and I tore my PCL, in my knee, and I went and saw a surgeon here in Sydney at the time, and I walked into his, consulting rooms, and there were pictures of, ice hockey players, NBA players, rugby league players, and all signed autograph photos, and here's, 20-year-old Mick with, probably Division 3 state league basketball honors to my, like, just
Yep.
not worthy of being in this room. And I was like blown away. And I was like, all right, well, there's a kind of level of, like, trust, I guess, already instilled. Like, there's nice subtle marketing from the surgeon's point of view, but it definitely does. It helps to have a person that is quite calming and obviously reassuring, and someone that does a lot of these operations. Like, I think that's the key. If we're, you know, anyone that's going through the ACL from a patient perspective, a key thing, rehab obviously is a big part of the process, but also seeing a surgeon and having a surgeon that has done countless operations like this over the years, is also too a key member of your team. So, that's cool. And so, yeah, what was so after the injury to the consulting time, what did you end up having pre-operatively for, in terms of weeks? Did you have 4 week process, or was it kind of let's get in there as soon as possible, or yeah, what was the pre-operative timeline for you?
I think I oddly remember it being 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks. Waiting for a lot of like the swelling to go down because it did swell up.
Yeah,
But immediately I was pretty much on, the glute bridges, the BFRs, the clams, like pretty much all the body weight strengthening exercises you could do, ISO
yeah,
holds. Obviously holding I had like one of those poles to keep my balance, but I do
yeah,
remember doing like a lot of, um, you know, I guess they were kind of like Pilates-ish, like
yeah,
ankle weight type of
yeah,
situations, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
really just kind of like yeah, build it up before it got taken away from me
Before
ever
it's
so
taken away again.
it
Yeah,
was like, yeah, it was definitely a everyday situation.
yeah, and
And
that
also
was
like
driven. That's all right, Karen.
a bunch of stretches as well, I think, because I had like definitely froze up, especially after
Yeah,
surgical and learning to walk again. Like I definitely had really tight ITs, hammies and quads.
yeah, 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 yeah. And was that was all supported by the physio, athletic trainers? What was I guess the setup with the Mystics? Was it daily physio contact, or was some of this done independently at home with a trainer, or yeah, what did that look like?
We were in season by the time that that had happened. So
Mm.
changes quick. So I was in every single day with the Mystics trainer. We have a fair few of them, which we're lucky to have. Like it wasn't just like
Yeah,
one
nice.
person in. So yeah, it was every day before practice, so which gave me the opportunity to be able to, watch practice and still be involved. So yeah, it was yeah,
Yeah.
definitely Mystics orchestrated.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then, so from a surgical point of view, you had the LET procedure. So for those that are listening and watching the LET, and if you don't know what it is, it's the extra procedure that the surgeon will do where they'll take a part of the IT band, kind of fashion it in a way and nick a little bit of it and kind of wrap it around underneath the lateral collateral ligament and then kind of anchor it back into the top of the tibia where it'll just stop that extra rotation and decrease the stresses on the ACL. It's a really nice, I guess, extra procedure if you're going to sort of get anything else done. It's one of those nice insurance policies. It does reduce the risk by about 50% in some recent studies. So it's a nice thing to have, I guess, to make you sleep a little bit better at night. Did in terms of harvest tissue, patella tendon?
Hello.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And post-operatively, did you have much struggles there with patella tendon early? That's it's kind of like, for us physios, we kind of read, almost like textbook presentation that patella tendons often have some grumbly anterior knee pain, struggles with kneeling and that kind of stuff for the first, 3 months. Like, yeah, any problems there with the the LET location of pain and that scar and the harvest site? Can you, yeah, describe what those sort of feel like and any struggles?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely remember the LET kind of being a bit more annoying, just because it lasted longer as well. Patella, like I did definitely have, struggles kneeling or really just like touching it. Once like it was my first injury, so like I was definitely being, hesitant to a lot of things till like people were encouraging me to like, do patella mobs and scratch it and rub at it. Like you really have to be uncomfortable with it to get comfortable again.
Yeah.
But like I do remember in my rehab having exercises of like literally just like 30-second kneels and just like
Yep.
trying to like put pressure on it again. But the LET for me was the most annoying just because like my IT bands, like it just felt like I had just done a separate injury.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
really tight. The scar itself was incredibly tight. Like when I was trying to get back my range of motion, very rarely was it, a feeling of like the front sensation of my scar. It was the side. And it just
Yep.
felt just tight. Like there's no other word to describe it but tight. Um, but now that I'm playing more, getting back into on-court stuff, and I don't have to wear a brace and I can,
Yep.
do it confidently, I would choose that. Like it was like worth the payoff, like for those
Yes.
couple
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
weeks
Yeah.
where I was very annoyed. It just kind of felt like a burning tight sensation. Like I
Yeah.
don't know how to
Yep.
explain it. And obviously stretch wise, I remember like trying to, roll it out or massage it, but also not trying to do too much to, piss it off anymore, really.
Yeah, yep,
Quite a fine line to walk, but that was the one thing that just eventually I was just, yeah, had enough of
yep.
it.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and that's often the similar commentary that our patients will say is that the first, 3 or 4 weeks after the LET, it's a bit sticky, it's a bit puffy, it doesn't feel great there, but once you get through those first 4 weeks, it tends to smooth down and the swelling calms down, and then yeah, it's a really nice smooth process after that.
Definitely
Um,
had a lot of like scraping and kind of like cupping, like fascia stuff on it,
yeah.
which was I don't know if anyone else can relate, but I ha have this sensation when that would happen, or when I was getting back into like single leg extensions, I needed to like burp. Like I was gagging just because of like how uncomfortable it was. But like it seemed to be a theme for like all my rehab. So it was never really a pain, just like an utmost like discomfort. Ugh.
There's this manifesting stress that sort of comes out through your knee and comes out through your guts. How funny! No, I haven't heard that, but maybe a lot of people feel that. They
Hopefully
just
I'm not the only
haven't
one.
verbalized it before.
Yeah, you guys are not the only one. Speak up.
Oh, classic. And so like you had, like for us as physios, we often sort of tell, and having, once again, probably a bit naive from me, but also knowing, having not gone through it, but also to trying to sort of tell people to sort of do it. Like we would say in the first month after that, we'd want you to do, 2 or 3 sort of rehabby sessions a day. Like, is that something, you know, yeah, like being at the coal face, is that something that you would, your static quads and your ISO holds and, all the treatment, like would you say like that was a very frequent part of your day? Like you're constantly attending
Every
and yeah,
every day for hours, and when I came back from the facility, some more. Like
yeah.
I remember seeing, and I think a lot of the time with athletes, especially professional athletes, like I know Achilles is different, but if we want to talk
Mm,
about like, the Jason Tatum and the Halliburton, like it's our job to get healthy. Like
mm,
we have the privilege of having these facilities, these contacts of trainers working out every single day. Like it's our literally our job requirement to get back
mm,
healthy on the floor. So like I would go in and I'll do like an hour, 2 hours lift rehab. Like I always have rehab, which is,
mm,
classic kind of what you would expect, like getting range of motion back, building some burn, some BFR, some all like the classic rehab stuff. And then I would go to a lift.
yeah,
And, it was like pretty much every day, unless we had one, like we had a blackout day mandatory during the season, for
yeah,
everyone a
yeah,
week. And even then, I had the green stretching band. I was getting prescribed kind of just different stretches to unlock, my
mm,
hips. That was definitely something that tightened up for me. My
yeah,
right hip, my right ACL. Um, oh, but yeah, it was hours every day, and it still is the same.
yeah,
Priming to get ready for the long core to lift and how you recover is just so essential. And it even went down to like the things I was putting in my body. Like I have never drunk so
yeah,
much cherry juice, beet juice,
yeah,
like like different sort of vitamins, shoving them down.
yeah,
A lot of collagen, and some creatine to try and
yeah.
keep my mass.
Yeah, yeah, that was going to be one of my other questions. So, like the supplement side of things, obviously you got to be careful with the supplements. But was that, like yeah, like not multi probably not a great example, but creatine, protein, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But those things that you weren't necessarily keeping on top of in college and only ramped up since rehab, or was that something that you sort of carried along through, your junior basketball days?
No, rehab has completely changed my view on those things.
Yeah,
There was, a time kind of in the middle of my rehab where I was like, oof, like I'm getting a bit sticky in my knee again. And it clicked. It might not have been the absolute final solution, but it might have been that one percenter. But I ran out of collagen and I had forgotten to ask for some more. So
yeah,
now I like how vital, maybe it is placebo for me. I'm not sure, but it works.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
ever since I tore it, like pre-surgery, even from the day that I tore it, like it was a heavy focus on a lot of creatine, collagen, and a lot of protein.
yeah.
Even from when I had surgery, just as an athlete, like I'm not using my muscle. I'm a pretty muscular woman. Lost a lot of that. So
Yeah.
for me to build it. Like I feel like I accidentally body recomped because I definitely had some like, you know, college chub
Yeah.
that I lost too. But when I was building it back, like my muscle went up in a lot of
Yes.
like the body scans, bod pods that we
Yep.
did.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I think it was like a direct, link to eating more heavy protein meals
Yep.
and just kind of like really cleaning up my eating. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 I was going to say like yeah, nutrition, like actually whole foods as well, and sleep and water and hydration. Like yeah, pre-injury, were you probably a bit haphazard with that? You kind of not necessarily took it for granted, but probably just wasn't a huge focus, like more of a focus on actually playing and sort of going to college and obviously learning and studying and playing and sort of trying to get that student athlete sort of balance, right? Whereas now in the pros, it's like, oh shit, I've got to sort of get this right. Was that the kind of switch in your thinking? Yeah,
I was really I felt like in college, my load was really high. Like I was very thankful to play like a lot of minutes. So a lot of the times eating was like catch up. Like I was so
yeah,
hungry. I was catching up, like whatever helped me just play those 40 minutes. Like I was gonna eat beforehand.
yeah,
Um, and then kind of when you get to the pros and also like at a organization that is, joint with an NBA organization. So like the food we get is plentiful, plenty options, very
yeah.
healthy. I just learned one of the other days that like every time we get a piece of meat, it's perfectly weighed and like sectioned out to be like 6 or 8 ounces or something. Whatever it
Awesome.
is, like there. So it was like very
Yeah,
easy for me to, even when I got there before I got hurt, kind of flip that mindset.
yeah.
Which is probably like really lazy of me. But once everything was laid
Oh,
out, I was like,
hey,
oh,
you got
great.
to take advantage of it. You
Yeah.
mentioned like that expectation of being a professional athlete. Like, was that and rehabbing? This is your job. This is like what you get paid to do now. Is that a kind of like a self-imposed expectation, or is that kind of like an expectation you've sort of seen other people manage their rehab and their long had rehab? You kind of want to emulate what they've done, or is it something that you thought, oh, okay, I really need to, or was, yeah, like the expectation, the word itself, like where did that kind of come from in terms of you having to really go all in on this?
I think definitely self-imposed by way of looking at a lot of women I look up to and the injuries that they've gone through in the W.
Mm,
Um, so I think it seems conceited, but like my biggest concern during rehab was like, oh, I don't want to have like gain the weight and then have to lose it and, fix my knee at the same time and get back into shape. Like if
mm,
that's one thing I control, cool. But I think I just looked at so many women in this league that have been hurt, whether it be like their first couple of years or later on in their career, and just the one percenters and how crazy some of these women are just because they're so dialed in.
yeah,
Um, and I'm like, she's still playing. She's, you know, tore her Achilles, tore her knee, she broke her foot,
mm,
and like they're still playing at such a high level, and it can only be really
yeah,
a testament to like doing everything correctly, but also just as athletes, you have like a crazy internal drive. And I
yeah,
think tearing my ACL, I knew I loved basketball, but it made me realize how much I love it even more because I
yeah,
was like, I'm just gonna do absolutely anything, not like to get up back out there as quick as possible in a controlled, timely
yeah.
manner. So, okay, maybe it's gonna be a year, but I don't need like that 2 year situation or what, like, like I don't mean like rush back my process, but do everything to be, on the court at the right time, at the earliest time possible, because I've done everything correctly.
Yeah, yeah, agree. What so what when with you being on the sidelines and from the injury to like arguably probably 3 months post-op, not being able to play, like how did you fill that void? Like in terms of training, what you'd normally do on court or just bouncing a ball around. Like how did you stay connected to being a basketballer, so to speak, when like your kind of life all of a sudden turned into just quad sets and knee extensions and ultrasounds and bloody BFR and living the life of a physio patient. Like how did you stay connected to basketball?
We play like 2 or 3 games a week. So if you're
Mm,
not like watching them, you're traveling, it's practice, it's shoot around. So just staying really engaged throughout those. And my job as like a basketball player, I'm a point guard. So not only is it about physically what I can do, a lot of it is
mm,
mentally. If I'm not dialed in and watching the intricacies of my teammates, how they like to shoot the ball, where they like to do it, what things annoy them, what things make them happy. Like just making it my job to really kind of like try and learn them as much as I could without playing with them, which is very
mm,
difficult as well because you're
mm.
not on the court with them.
Yeah.
Um, but my coaches did an awesome job with me of, kind of just giving me a notebook on the sideline. And I was tracking a few things for them, like a few things that just don't show up on the stat sheet, which made,
Yeah.
me have to lock in more. And I wasn't able to cheat that by just going and looking at the box score. But they kept me like really engaged and like they valued my feedback, which once again is credit to them and the organization because it kept me really engaged throughout such a difficult time.
Yeah, for sure. They almost became like an assistant coach in a way, or yeah, an assistant coach. It's
I've realized I wanted to coach, but just not right now. I'm still trying to
yeah,
play.
yeah. You think that might be a career for you later on down the track?
Yes, definitely.
Mm, yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, what were I guess, building on that, what were, I guess, some of the extra skills that you did pick up also, like obviously being able to get some, court awareness or be able to learn, because being a rookie, like like I said, you weren't able to sort of actually be on court and get those sort of connections or be able to read, you have that understanding of where and that anticipation of where your players are going to be on court. Like, were there, yeah, I guess what other kind of skills did you pick up in that period of time, outside of basketball, but better time management or better stress management or mental training or yeah, what other kind of things did you pick up during that time?
Yeah. Honestly, it was like kind of I generally have a pretty positive outlook on everything, but it was really the first time I've gotten seriously challenged into some real
Mm.
negative thoughts. So I think like, it's one thing to just, have a good attitude when everything's bloody going well. And,
Mm,
you think inconvenience is, an inconvenience to your face with a bigger one. And it's like, oh, these were little problems.
mm,
So I think like a lot of like resilience and just like remembrance, a lot of, perspective shifts. And if my initial thought was to think one thing, I quickly tried to replace with another, which, you're not always perfect at. Because at the end of the day, like,
mm,
you know, basketball is like a huge part of who I am and what I do. But it also made me realize, I don't have to always play it to love it. There will be a time again when I'm playing it, and it's very soon. And, just trying to appreciate, time slowing down and experiencing my rookie year through a lens of like, I'm not failing forward through my rookie year. Like, I
mm.
can see this stuff on the sideline, and not physically have to go through it as well. So, like, that was like huge perspective shifts. Um,
And who helped you through that? Did you have sports psych or was it mentor, like older senior veteran players, or like who sort of helped you sort of, yeah, get that perspective? Because you wouldn't have had that before, like with a long-term injury like this, not having a big serious ACL, or like, yeah, who sort of got you to this point to have such a positive perspective and spin on things?
I definitely like have a therapist that I work with and he's great, but like it's just
Mm,
really leaning on the people. I have a few people that I know are gonna, correct me when I'm acting crazy or
mm,
like reinforce me when I'm thinking down on myself or whatever. Like just through the years of college, really forming really good relationships with people who I know aren't just gonna, blow smoke up my ass. Like they're just going to tell me the truth. So I think
yeah,
like that was a great perspective to have. And it always feels like such a long process, but you don't really want to waste any time. Like you're still living your life.
yeah,
So if I'm going to live it so miserably, like, well, maybe that's a me problem. Like, why was I putting so much of how I was feeling about myself into a sport that I was going to eventually
mm,
stop playing anyways?
yeah,
Like perfect time to try and work on not needing external validation
yeah,
through
yeah.
the sport I played.
Yep. Yep. No, very, very cool. We sort of talked a bit about the rehab and like, the kind of efforts and the just the large amounts of time that goes in and probably obsessing about rehab for a while. Where did you find your joy in that first, 12, was it in the first 12 weeks post-op when, yeah, you couldn't be on court, you had to sort of sit on the sidelines, you had to rehab, like, where you just, yeah, did you binge watch, trashy TV or read magazines? Because I think that's the other thing too. Like in the first 12 weeks of ACL rehab, it really sucks. So
Yeah.
we've got to find joy wherever we can and have these little wins and these moments that make us happy rather than just sort of, just lay more shit on you week in, week out for 12 weeks. What were your kind of little joyful moments?
I mean, definitely played a lot of video games.
Mhm.
But like once again, it was a season. So like as soon as I got my stitches out, like I was on the plane traveling with the team. So
Yeah.
like we're going we have charter flights in the W. So I'm, going from New York to Chicago, and then we have a stop in Golden State, then we go up to Seattle. Like I'm just experiencing the United States of America at this point.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
I'm an
Few,
assistant coach
few,
slash tourist
few
slash
shopping trips, few coffee shops. Yeah.
come on now. Like I'm yes. Um, so it was really just, yeah, I think it definitely was just that, but also that time learning to walk again and kind of building tolerance. Like I made it a priority for me in every city we went to just get out and walk. Because like of
Yeah.
course I was gonna see it, but like I had to build like my walking tolerance again. Also, never do that in Seattle. If you want to do it anywhere, Seattle is not the place to do it because those hills are disgusting.
Yeah, yeah. Or San Fran. San Fran sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, cool. I
but
think
yeah,
that's
honestly,
like that's an important thing for some patients that might be tuning in is that yeah, like because you can get really down in those for particularly 12 months, like the first 12 weeks in particular, like yeah, you got the post-operative pain, you got the swelling, you got the restrictions in movement, you're not riding a bike, so much, you're not walking, you're not getting that general exercise to lift your mood and get those nice feel-good chemicals. So you got to sort of find little areas of happiness that kind of, to take you away from, the label of having, rehab over your head. So whether or not you're professional or non-professional, like I think it's important to, if it's a bowl of ice cream or a block of chocolate, or if it's a, gaming, TV shows, going catch up with mates. Like I think it's important you really look after that mental health side of things in the first 12 weeks and obviously beyond that too. So, um, yeah. What about now? Because talk about you on the sidelines. Did you find any areas of your game being like, probably being on the sidelines watching plays and watching, games and scrimmages, that kind of stuff, and knowing your game, and now having to play at the NBA level? Did you find some little, I guess, internal holes in your game that you thought, oh shit, if I, don't work on that, I'm going to get really destroyed here in the W? Or did you, yeah,
yeah.
what was it like? I guess from your own personal side of the game, being sat on the sidelines and having that opportunity to sort of sit and watch what it's like at a different level. Like, did you see some areas of your game that you could have, or you need to improve on, or or reassuringly thought, actually, I do that pretty well. I'm going to be pretty good when I come back. Yeah,
Yeah, there were definitely two main things that stood out for me. I mean, a lot of this is going to come through experience, and when I start to get to play again, it's also hard to imagine myself in those situations and like being like, oh yeah, I would have done that, and I probably would have. But obviously, like for a short guard, like having a really nice floater, to be able to get it off with some nice touch over a lot of like the taller defenders, that was something where I was like, all right, perfect time to work on this. And defense, just being a shorter guard, like you just have to be very smart with like when you apply pressure, I'm probably going to try and be screened a lot. So,
Mm,
making sure that I do everything in my power to not get screened or navigate those areas really well. And fortunately, there's not a shortage of short guards in the W.
mm,
Like every night there was at least like one guard I was able to watch their body movements and their IQ. But honestly, as byproduct of ACL recovery, like something that's going to help and translate is my strength.
yeah,
Like I mentioned earlier, I put on like a more muscle and not like the bulk muscle. Like I feel like very good in, my strength right now. And I'm not sure if that's something I was definitely strong in college, but not as strong as I am right now. And they
yeah.
always say massive jump, when you play against women, physicality wise. So I think, being able to work on that for this whole year is definitely gonna, be beneficial.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so now you're back because you're now a touch over 9 months post-op, aren't you? From count, yeah. Um, yeah, take us back, like you're back now running, jumping, and actually being on court and being involved. Yeah, what was the first? Yeah, yeah. Can you describe like your first training session back, and in terms of that sensation of trust or fears of maybe re-injury again? Like, yeah, can you sort of if you can think back, if you already haven't sort of blanked it out and sort of forgotten about that moment, yeah, can you sort of talk about what it was like being back into your first on-court training session and your first scrimmage, actually going one-on-one with someone?
So I think that I say we, the training staff, the coaches, everyone at the Mystics kind of did a really good job at like gradually exposing me to like different movements, defense, offense, some physicality. Like it was just like that was a
Mm,
long process of like a
mm,
re-exposure thing. So it kind of felt like just a random day. It was like, all right, playing 2-on-2 today. And I was like, wait, what? And it was like during my session. And I was like, what
mm.
time is this? Like, is this what like we're playing? And they're like, yeah, like we're playing. And I was like, this is probably the perfect way to drop this on. Because like I just have
Yeah, no time to
um
think about it. Yeah.
yeah, and it really I've just had this saying, and it's terrible, but every time I've, done a new box jump or like tried to jump higher or just like done something that's just like a bit like I just say F it. I literally say it out loud and I just dive
Mm,
into it because like it's
mm.
just the mental part that is just sometimes so glitchy. So like scrimmaging wise, like I really haven't felt my knee, touch wood, like play a factor into anything. Like maybe early on in the exposure, yeah, but like that's why you do it.
Mm, mm.
So now it really is just like the cardio part. But
Yep.
we did such a good job of exposing myself to like trying to absorb more and not being as stiff-legged and like being able to pivot with some pace or just making sure that my foot is going where I think it's going.
Yep.
Those are huge parts in, that exposure phase, which, made it perfect for the day I did start to play to kind of just be like, oh, the only thing I'm worried about is how unfit I feel right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what like the difference between like our general population who don't get that, training support, professional support of, daily trainings with coaches and teammates and that kind of stuff. If you sort of go into training once or twice a week and you don't have your physio on site, I think the big gaps and big errors that I see in the general population is they'll kind of be strong in the gym. They'll pass all their kind of strength tests. They'll look really good in the gym with their squats and their deads and all their other strength tests. They might be able to box jump and do some things. And that transition and that big jump to actually playing even like, a small sided game, be it basketball, be it soccer, be it netball, be it rugby league, whatever it is, like a touch. But basically, 3-on-3 basketball would be a perfect example. Like that in itself is a pretty big jump from just being strong in the gym. So you sort of have to sort of make sure there's some nice stepping stones there. So that's probably a bit more of a message there for the physios that are not quite connected to a club or only sort of working part time, and those that are patients who are listening and watching. There's got to be we've got to find ways to sort of gradually expose you back to sport, and I think that's where we probably see probably a big explanation as to why we see such a big re-injury number. We see some huge numbers from re-injury rates, mostly from the States, where for young people under the age of 20, that number is as high as 30% in the first 2 years of second ACL injuries. It's a massive number. And I've got my sort of not conspiracy theorist. I think my theories are is that it's just that I think that there's that big disconnect of just being passed to play sport and then immediately jumping into that sport a week or two later with very little gradual exposure to that sport outside of the gym. So that's probably where I think that's probably we need to do better as a profession. And from a patient perspective, we probably just need to be a bit more mindful. It takes a bit of extra time to actually pass your test and actually be ready to play sport again. Um,
That was what I was gonna say is like it's
yeah.
irritating as an athlete who wants to get back. Like some days I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I just want to do
Mm.
more. Probably not the safest thing, but I would say it gives me confidence because I have about 10 eyes in that building that
Yeah.
if at any point I was doing something wrong, they would say something. But I mean, the
Get job
data that
done.
yeah, the data that's being collected in terms of how many jumps I take, my A cell, my D cell, my height speed, like kind of length or, how many trips up and down I do, like it's been so calculated that like every day or every week it just gradually increases.
Mm.
And again, sometimes I'm ignorant and my emotions and I'm just like, I just want to play already. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like, why
Yeah.
why am I only doing 45 minutes today? But it's for the benefit of my and like that gradual re-exposure. So
Yeah,
like so much math and calculation and data that's being collected. Like I had no idea you could track my ACL decel.
yeah.
It's all helped me because now I'm on the court. Like I'm really just worried about getting back in shape.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's cool. And it sounds like, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well. You'll be actually playing your first game soon, bargaining agreement, pending. But if we're back on the court, what are you looking forward to the most? Is, that first game back, like, is it obviously playing the game that you love, but is it, the camaraderie with your mates? Is the, the crowds? Is it, just, yeah, what are you looking forward to when you play your first game?
Um, I feel like I've thought about it, but I haven't because I
Mm,
think my general consensus is, am I going to cry or not? But I
mm,
think like the adrenaline will probably take over, like
mm,
it was my dream to get into the W and, I got drafted. So I kind of half achieved that dream because my
yeah.
next step is to get on the court.
Because
Um,
you haven't played a game yet, right? That's the
I
thing. You
haven't
did
played.
happen in training camp, so you haven't played any minutes yet. So yeah.
So I don't know what the best,
Mm.
what I'm looking forward to, all of it. I'm sure after the game is done, then there'll be a lot of takeaways.
Mm.
But I think it's just going to be like a reminder, a reflection of like the year you've had because like you
Mm.
just forget how much you dedicate, put into it, how many things you change about, your eating or your personality. Like you change so much just to get back on the court, just to do what you did without thinking about, it a year ago. So I don't know, like probably just a lot of emotions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I think that it's a massive learning experience for anyone going through ACL. Like, it's a test of your resilience. Yeah, I think a lot of the skills that you do pick up, like if you can take a step back and go, okay, I'm not just getting my body stronger. Like, it's, like I'm learning resilience. I'm learning, how my body kind of reacts to certain things. I'm, learning things about nutrition and, how my body reacts to, different foods or, supplements and, how I cut. Like, I think a lot of these skills will certainly help you way in advance than, just being able to get back on the court. And that's the same for anyone going through ACL rehab. And I think often you're hearing people that unfortunately tear their ACLs as teens and then they sort of tear them again as an adult. They kind of wish they were to go back and give that teenager a good sort of shake around the shoulders to say, just snap out of it, stop being such a dickhead. Actually put this rehab in now because you'll regret it later. I think that sign of maturity is that you're not, yeah, you take the experience. You're taking a lot more out of the experience in itself, rather as opposed to I'm just trying to fix my knee. You actually learn a few little things along the way. Some people that I've sort of spoken to say, when you do a PhD, for example, in academia, like it's not so much about learning. Yeah, if you've got a question that you want to answer through your PhD process, you get the answer at the end, or you might get close to the answer. But all those life skills that you learn along the way about organization and time management and being able to communicate well, and all these little kind of side bits that you learn along the way kind of help you get to their answer as well. I think the same thing can be said about ACL rehab as well. You'll get this multifaceted benefit across your life that'll be huge for you in the future. So no, that's awesome. Well done. Last couple of questions, George, before you probably go off and hopefully get some sleep and probably need some sleep after listening to me for the last hour. Uh, I always ask, my guests, if you from so two things, those that are going through ACL rehab at the moment, is there any tips or any words of advice you can offer to anyone listening that's going through ACL that are at the moment from some of the things that you've learned?
Yeah, it's the biggest process, and you're going to be in that process probably, especially if you're playing a sport for the rest of your career. Like the stuff I'm doing now is just not rehab. It's, eventually going to be my warm up or my cool down or just stuff that
Mm,
I do every single day without thinking about. But there's so many times, especially in like looking at like I guess the continue like whatever process. Early
mm,
days wins are going to feel massive. They're going to
yeah.
be, okay, I can lift my leg, I can walk, I'm making all these huge jumps. And then there's just going to be this like little bit of time where it feels like everything's plateaued and everything's boring. And it just feels like you've just hit this massive wall. And like that part is like the most important part. Because I
Yeah.
feel like that's where people quit on themselves or they quit in general or they just, want to give up. And like that's the most vital time. And
Yep.
I think like, in reflection, like obviously I had the end goal of, once again, getting on the W chord and like that was never going to deter me from quitting. But there was definitely some moments where I was like, whoo, this is tough.
Yep.
To like push through that, like that I think even data wise, that's where you see like a significance in like increase in return to play or return to sport. Um, so yeah, keep pushing through that and
Yep.
I feel like you can't cheat in knee recovery. Like your body's going to tell you when you haven't stretched enough, when you're not strong enough, when you're not walking properly, or you haven't worked on your gait enough. Like you're going to feel it in your whole body. So yeah, you can't cheat anything about the process if you wish to return back to the pre-surgery you.
Yep. 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 No, very, very good words of advice. That plateau, yeah, some people call it the valley of despair, where you're just really stuck in this really, yeah, your gains are very marginal and very slow, but it's that consistency in that middle block that really continues to pave the way for that, successful run at the end. But yeah, agree. That first 12 weeks, you see these beautiful, weekly gains. It's just like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm feeling good. Things are going pretty well. And it's like, oh, flat.
Yep.
Yeah, no, awesome. And then lastly, for us physios, what can we, what do we, yeah, what can we do better, I guess, as or yeah, using your own kind of experiences, either good or bad. What can we do as physios to help people going through their ACL journey? What can we do? Well, what do we do that are really well, and what can we do better?
Um, Not that I've ever had like this experience like personally, but I think like especially if you are working with like so many different patients, like everyone's body is different, everyone's
Mm,
mentality is different, everyone's mental is different. And I think like
mm,
no ACL looks the same, no process is the same. I got myself into situations where I was comparing myself to other athletes my age or older who had been through ACLs, and I'm like, why isn't my rehab looking like this? But
mm.
I think just knowing that everyone's is so unique and what worked for this person might not work for this person. And maybe just articulating those things like, hey, like let's try this. Like let's keep new, funky, fresh ways to keep you, engaged or find out things that you might like or not like. Like it's cool to not like different things. Like how can we, get this quad strength through another avenue of,
Yep,
maybe a different type of workout or something like
yep,
because yeah, just sticking to one rigid way of rehab is probably not entirely healthy. And you're probably
yep.
going to lose a lot of interest and patience through that.
No, I agree. It's definitely it's an important part. We've got to keep things fresh and engaging, and like just that one. But one person may like that. So another person will love the variety and want that, almost like that fortnightly update to mix things up, to keep it engaging and keep it exciting. Whereas some people just might like, I just want the same two things over and over again because it's easy for me to bite off and it's doable. I'll just know that that consistent kind of thing there is just going to help me cruise along. But regardless of which way you go with, I think it's that, as you said, it's that person sitting in front of you that's going to be different from the next person that you see. So just being really flexible and meeting them at their level is really important. So
I would
uh,
also say over communication, if
yeah,
that's what the patient wants, like
yeah,
over communication, like it's yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
warn me of what's to come, warn me of how big of a deal it is that I've passed this, you
Mhm.
know, talk medical to me so I can understand it. That's just at least how I liked the rehab. Like
Yeah,
I liked open book, here's everything. Because then, it gains just a little bit of like that control back of like, okay. Like I don't feel like there's like this weird, gap between me and
yeah,
you. Like we're on the same page,
yeah.
we're over communicating, and I feel good about the page we're on.
Awesome. That's a good tip. That's cool. I don't think many people have complained about having too much information. So apart from my son, he does want to talk in the afternoons. If I give him too many instructions, he just flips his lid. But I think as adults we can definitely take on some more things. So yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot to say about that patient interaction, and that communication is really key. Georgia, you've been unbelievable and very gracious in everything that you've shared with us today, and I'm incredibly grateful for your time tonight. And I'm sure our listeners at the ACL Hub will take a lot out of yeah, your words of wisdom and your insight. So yeah, thank you for having the chat with me tonight.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate it. Pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you. Well, that's it, ACL Hubbers. Until next interview, yeah, hope you enjoy this one and yeah, stay tuned and we'll bring more of these to you very, very shortly. Until then, we'll see you next time.